Well, good afternoon and welcome to Pay Entry's weekly webinar. I say weekly webinar, we haven't had one since the end of November, so I hope I remember how to do this. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 HR issues that you'll have to face probably in some way, shape, or form in 2022. This webinar will be recorded. There is a handout of a PDF of this presentation in the handout section of the box on your screen. And if you cannot access that, please email me after the presentation and I will send it to you. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Kathy Graham. I'm head of HR services here at Pay Entry. And I'm here along with my team to answer any of your questions. Anytime you have an HR question, just let us know. First of all, legal disclaimer, we're not attorneys, so our webinars are intended to educate you. And while we hope this information is helpful to understand the topic, please remember that those presenting this webinar are not attorneys. The information provided during the presentation and the Q&A session should not be construed as legal advice. In my next life, I'm going to be an attorney. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the top 5 HR issues to watch out for in 2022. So since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, oh my God, it seems like 10 years now. It's only been, coming up on 3 years. There has been a significant shift in the way that we work. We've shifted significantly here at Pay Entry in that our entire company is virtual, remote. So it works really well for us as a company. It might not work as well for some others in production facilities or manufacturing, but for the type of work that we do, it has created a different work environment. And so there are a lot of changes in the way that we work. Even if you are a manufacturing facility, the way that you've changed, the way that you've had to adapt to shifting schedules due to people being out on COVID and things of that nature, everything is different now. The first HR trend that we see happening in a more strong, more succinct way or a more straightforward way in 2022 is the hybrid work model. This is going to be the future of work, we think, and COVID-19 has shown that work can get done effectively, even more effectively, sometimes remotely. But while that might be the case, while productivity may be up, many leaders tell us that culture and team dynamics and the depth of relationships are suffering. So in 2022, we expect organizations to proactively experiment with new models of work, and there'll be no one size fits all. You'll see fully on site, you'll see fully remote, and everything in between. So the picture will probably change based on the company. So this is causing kind of an evolution or a revolution in the way that things have occurred in the past. Employees have loved working remotely. Some, however, feel like they're missing out on something. But the intent is to, if you have a hybrid work model, you want to make sure that you empower your employees and keep them engaged during difficult times. It can be very stressful. Instead of focusing on where an employee works, focus is on delivering better results. If I had done a poll on this, I would have liked to have put in here a show of hands of who is working remotely and who has a hybrid model. Maybe next time we do this, I will put that in my next PowerPoint. So still along this trend number 1, Technology that we have today is quickly evolving, and what we had already allows teams to work virtually. So that technology is going to get stronger and better, so that we'll feel more comfortable using that to communicate with each other. However, 65% of those workers that have been surveyed, 65 to 75% want more in-person time with their coworkers. So that's where a hybrid model works, when you're in the office 2 to 3 days a week and you're working remotely the remainder of the time. Workspaces are being redesigned to better accommodate those hybrid work environments. You may not need the amount of office space that you had before, because most people are working at home, and there can be a trade-off in someone working in an office 2 of the days of the week and someone else working in that same office the other 2 days or 3 days of the week. So I'm sure there's been a big shift in the corporate office space environment. Selling that is probably a real challenge nowadays, with all of the companies that have gone remote, even on a partial basis. You'll also need in this environment leaders that have the emotional intelligence to connect with people on different channels. That's going to be essential. There are many managers that believe that employees cannot be productive at home. So that's one of the things that you will have to deal with. And measuring productivity is something that will be more prominent at work in the future. The second trend we see in 2022, it's a very strong trend, is the well-being of employees. This is no longer just an employee benefit. It's been expanded beyond physical well-being, to emotional, financial, social, and career wellness, and to the entire family unit. It's not just a voluntary benefit that you offer at open enrollment, because the environment that we have been working in can be very stressful. And there's a lot of burnout out there right now, because of the manner in which things occurred. They happened fast and overnight, and everything was different, and that causes stress. And then you have children at home that can't go to school. So what do you do with them while you're working? Lots of different family and social issues to deal with during this time. So here's a chart that just shows the 5 key levers of employee well-being. Um, Financial is one of the top. Overall compensation, the type of retirement plan they have, the financial wellness and education. Financial wellness or financial education now is becoming the hottest benefit to add to your um, benefit list, your portfolio, because employees may need help understanding how to manage their money in today's times. Mental health well-being, you hear a lot about that nowadays, and making sure that your employees have access to an employee assistance program or online virtual sessions, or in-person therapist under your benefit plans is crucial. And making sure that employees know it's there. You know, a lot of times, I have been in HR for a long time, employees don't read what you send them. They don't look at what you send them. They toss it into a bowl in the kitchen and it just sits there. Well, find other ways to make sure, via internal emails or whatever, to make sure that your employees know what you're providing for them and how easy it is to access. Then there's social well-being. That is the company culture, whether your culture is a virtual culture or an in-person culture in a building. It needs to be addressed. Work-life balance and the type of relationships that individuals have inside and outside of work with their coworkers. Physical well-being has always been on the list, and your health insurance plan and your wellness programs, anything that you have available for, exercise sessions. We have had virtual exercise sessions at our company. So those are things that you can add that people can take advantage of, even if it's, some things that a lot of people won't take advantage of, but some will, and those who do will appreciate it. And then last but not least, the career well-being. That's access to training and development. That's a real key in 2022 and going forward is allowing individuals at work to or employees at work to develop their skills and their opportunities to achieve things at work that maybe they couldn't without additional training. Tuition reimbursement is also important here, along with the performance reviews, coaching, and mentoring that should come naturally at work. HR trend number 2, continuing. The pandemic has taken a toll on our population. Um, the survey from Global Wellness Institute indicates that 65% of their companies surveyed are increasing the spending on mental health wellness because it is very important to have people with stable brains working for you and people who are happy and not depressed. There is a lot of mental um, health, there are a lot of mental health issues and problems now that people need help dealing with. And so any help that a company can provide is much appreciated by those who benefit from it. Trend number 3, this is something we focus on internally constantly, and that's adopting cybersecurity practices to build a secure work environment. The threats we know are increasing. A huge payroll company was locked down by hackers and had some real difficulties helping companies get their payrolls done. Thank goodness it wasn't us, but we are always aware that threats are increasing and there are so many sneaky ways to get inside your company. I know of 2 companies here where in the area where I work that got hacked and were basically locked down until they provided a ransom. That's very common nowadays, and we know about the Colonial Pipeline having the problems and other entities. So your job in HR is going to be more important when you talk about the laws protecting employee data. Those are increasing, and a lot of times it's the state level. But I feel that if enough states ramp up their laws, then it will become a federal issue. Phishing and malware threats are the most common. We do a lot of training here at Pay Entry on how to recognize those threats and what not to do. So employee training, as I mentioned, is going to be key to avoiding those threats. Human resources or whoever's in charge of the IT area, um, HR is going to be more involved with IT to accomplish this goal of security. And it's a constant fight. Things constantly change. The threats change. They look like different things at different times. So it's important for you, regardless of the type of business that you have, to make sure your employees understand what the threats are, how to recognize them, and um, how to prevent an issue. I would hate to be the one at Pay Entry that opened the door to something horrible that shut us down. I would just be packing up my little bags and moving on at that point. But it is very critical for all companies to deal with this, regardless of what you do or how large you are. And then trend number 4. This is not a new trend, but it's going to strengthen this year and into the next. Is focusing on the employee experience. This is so much more critical now because of the shortage of workers. Engaged employees are happier, more productive, motivated. They stay longer. So it helps you to retain top talent in today's extremely competitive market. And your approach is going to be different than other companies' approach. Some of the things that you need to focus on are making sure that people feel like they have meaningful jobs, that you have a company culture of inclusion. That's just not like the executive team knows everything and your employees know nothing. That they feel like they're not part of the decision making, and that can make them feel like outsiders in a world where you expect them on the inside to be conducting business the way that you want them to and in the spirit that you want them to. Also, competitive pay and benefits are critical now because of the competitive market we're in. So this is a time to go back and look at how what kind of an employee experience you have at your company and how you can improve on that. Do people like their jobs? Do they feel like they're making a contribution to your company? And if they are making a contribution, do you let them know it and reward them for it? I don't know how well you can read this. You might be able to read it on your handout a little bit better, but these are some of the top 10 ways to perfect an employee experience strategy. Everything from keeping your job application simple and hiring the right talent, and having an amazing onboarding experience, celebrating your employees, getting their feedback. That's critical. Um, you can do that through surveys. You can do that through virtual meetings, different ways. And make sure you communicate regularly, be flexible with the needs of employees nowadays, and make sure that you're getting feedback. Getting feedback and then reacting to it um, one way or the other. The answer is yes, we can do that, or no, we can't. I once worked for a company where we did an employee engagement survey, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life because I was the HR director. And I had sitting with me someone from each department in the company, and we were talking about what would make this a better place to work. Well, I personally got insulted, not personally, but I was I was defending, ended up feeling like I was defending the company. And some of the times, a lot of the things that they were asking for were not possible. But if you ever do something like this, make sure that after it's over, you do give the employees feedback on why or why not, why you're going to do something or why you can't do something. And make sure that everyone understands because that's critical. Trend number 5, and this has been going on but is getting stronger, is creating a strategic recruitment plan. This is unprecedented, an unprecedented tight labor market. It's called the um, time when everybody's quitting their jobs to go find some new thing to do in life, and that's partially a result of the stressful situations that we've been through in the last 2 years and the fact that companies may not have been addressing some of that. But agility is a real key factor in making sure that you have a successful recruiting program today. Agility is working fast, working smart, um, quickly reacting to a candidate that you feel is the right candidate, not putting them off for 2 weeks to 30 days. You'll lose them in this environment. So it's acting quickly and being flexible. Also, investing in automation to improve your efficiency from a recruiting standpoint is very important. You don't need stacks of resumes sitting on your desk. If you have the pay entry system, hire and onboarding is one way that you can hire employees. You can post your jobs electronically. You can get all your resumes electronically, and you can actually, from that point when you decide who to hire, you can take them into the onboarding process electronically. So everything you do is in the system and transfers over to pay entry. If you don't use that now and you're interested in that, please shoot me an email and I'll make sure the right person reaches out to you. Um, so this automation is important. Candidate expectations are higher. They don't have to take your job. There's another job out there too. And whatever you do, make the candidate's experience a good one. Make sure that they remember how you um, interviewed them, whether it be virtual or in person. Make sure they have an agenda. There are lots of steps. We did a webinar on this a while back on the candidate experience, and that's something that you need to make sure that whatever happens, it's a good experience for them because that's their first impression of you. And then also look at internal recruiting as an alternative, moving people around, moving people up, retraining people. Um, Internal recruiting matters because it improves retention. It accelerates your new hire productivity. People already know where everything is and probably know how to use most of your systems. It also makes the hiring process faster. You don't have to spend months looking for someone if you're willing to take someone inside who's very smart and loyal and wants to learn something new, teach them. They'll stay there a lot longer and you'll have a great employee. So one of the last things, and this is not a trend, this happens every year, always happen, the changing employment laws. And where I see the most activity this year um, is in, one of them is in parental leaves. The states are very active in putting in legislation that's creating these parental leaves and paid leaves of absence for sick time or caregiving. The pandemic caused almost 3 million women to drop out of the workforce, and it turned a bright light on challenges that are faced by working parents and caregivers. So the states are reacting much faster than the federal government. We know that the um, Build Back Better had some leave rules in it, and that did not go anywhere. So we know that the states will continue to be very active. California, New York, Massachusetts, they have paid leave. They also have paid COVID leave. So check your state laws for new parental leave laws coming in, or even just paid leave. That's going to be probably the fastest growing piece of legislation. And then pay transparency and equity. A number of states now have said that if you're advertising or recruiting for a position in that state or that city, it can even go down to a jurisdiction, that you have to post the range of pay for the job. Um, so make sure that you know, based on the state that you're in, what your requirements are to do that. So pay transparency. I know Colorado and New York have those rules in place where if you're in recruiting for a position, you have to put a range out. What's the top? What's the bottom? What's the top of that pay scale? And pay equity is going to be something that comes up probably mid-year to the fall. This has been on in the House for a while to deal with some pay equity laws. So we'll see how that goes. Um, and also organized labor. There's an upswing there. We see excuse me, back up here. We see Starbucks having some organization efforts, and some of the, um, although there's a PRO Act, which is a union act that's stalled in Congress, several Starbucks have recently unionized, and there is an organization going on, or re-meeting in Alabama for one of the Amazon distribution centers. So it's ramping up, and that may have an impact on your business. Okay, so I forgot to tell you that during this session, you could type into the question box any questions that you have throughout this. If you want to take a minute now and type a question into the box, you can. If not, you can email me afterwards if you have something that's specific to your company that you'd like to ask. But let's give it just a few minutes. We have our next 4 webinars planned out. They're on our website at payentry.com. So if you want to go out there and register for one of them, one of those coming up is on payroll fraud and how to identify it and fix it before it happens to you. Okay, let's see here. There's a question, where's the best place to find if your state has pay transparency when posting for a position? The easiest thing to do is to email me and I will look it up for you. That's my job here. And I have 2 other people. Adina Glencher and Juanita Heikkinen, and they are here to help you with any questions that you have. And my email address is cgraham, CGRAHAM, at payentry.com. And this next slide, I think, has an email address on it too. No, it doesn't. Back up here, don't do that. You can also reach us at hrservices@payentry.com, but go ahead and reach out to us. It does come with your payroll service. You are um, eligible to spend a few minutes with us on the phone to find out the answer to a quick question. We also have a compliance package that we have a number of our clients that have signed up to have us do virtual HR for them and to make sure that they're compliant going into the new year. So we can take all the worry out of your HR compliance needs and would love to do that. Would love to talk to you about it. So we're going to end this session today. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks for attending today and have a great rest of the day.